There were player protests on USL's opening weekend. How did expansion teams fare in their debut matches? And does the USL need to change their business model moving forward? That and much more on Monday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, the show where we dot the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. My name, Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side, it is that man, Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. How you feeling? It is a Monday.
Rob, you seem like not somebody who missed out on an hour of sleep this weekend. You're all kinds of fired up. Do you have a lot extra coffee to get through it? What's going on over there? What's happening?
Just about a pot of coffee, that's all.
An entire pot of coffee. No, yes. Interesting that I mentioned you losing an hour of sleep because our man Mad Pup over there in the UK was like, "You guys are starting an hour early. What's going on?" Well, no, that's not because
you guys just aren't in the time machine like we are.
we've already gone into the future, and here we are in the future with a little extra juice because of the caffeine, a little less sleep because of the time change. I'm okay. I'm ready. First of all, happy birthday to my wife, who does not listen to the show, but I got to say it anyway, just for universal reasons. So happy birthday to my wonderful wife. Thank you to everybody who supports us here on Morning Kickaround. Mr. Bob, what is, you can't call it, if it happens every single show, it's not a tradition anymore. It's like, how do we even describe what Mr. Bob is doing for us here? Appreciate every bit of support he provides to us. I Play French Horn is here. She's talking about Atlanta United. Improving but still losing. That's not good. Frederick is here as well. I see Armando is our guy. He's here. Jack's not a member. I put Jack on screen. It's okay. Jack has been trying to become a member through the largesse of Mr. Bob for a while, so we'll give him a pass. What else we got? Anything else that we need to get to here before we start the show? Any notes for the Ultras? Any business for everybody?
Yeah, at the end of the show, we're going to celebrate Ultras meeting up in real life down in Florida. And also, I want to give a shout out to some new MK Ultras that joined over the weekend. We get Matt Kapala, our guy in Flint, back with us after a little bit of hiatus. We got Dave Valensky, Zara Croft, Clayton Mitchell, Mr. 1000 Cent, and iSoccer_FC. LOL Trex, and then Risklander. Welcome aboard, and I'd like to see you join over on the Morning Kickaround Discord server. Amongst the benefits you get as a channel member, in addition to bonus content and your comments getting priority on screen during these live shows. So do so if you're able. It helps us go. We're an independent soccer chat show, and you guys are driving us and keeping us in the game here. If you don't necessarily have the change in your pocket to help us out, you can subscribe or just tell your friends. That probably goes even farther than a subscribe. Yeah. Tell your friends, share a link. That's 3 clicks to copy, paste the link to our show. Do so, please, and help us get to more folks so more people know about the show. Ignorance to us, our existence, is probably our biggest barrier to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Sharing it is the most active way to spread the word, but you guys know how YouTube works, right? It's an algorithm. It's some sort of mystical, magical mess of mathematics or whatever. I don't know. It's something.
2 + 2 = 5.
So please comment. Even if you're like, I watched the video and I commented live and I was in the chat. No, comment below the video after we're done. Like the video. Click that little thumbs up guy. Or it's not a guy. Click the thumbs up. It's just a thumbs up. Click that. Hype the show, hype the channel, hype the video, whatever that thing is. Do that as well. Like, that's going to help us break out from the little bubble that we're put in. Like, it's not our choice. We're put in this little bubble, and you guys know how this is. There are soccer fans all over the country who need what we're bringing them, who need this community, who just don't know we're here.
Another way to support the show, if you're able to, if you'd have a couple of dollars and you'd like something tangible in your hands at the end of it, the MK collection, there is a little thing underneath this video. It says shop in our channel, and there's hoodies, t-shirts, hoodless sweatshirts, and a coffee mug. And you can even see our guy Bob in Albuquerque has a video of him drinking out of his MK Ultra cup.
Yeah, we need, and I'm just to entice you more. If you are an ultra, We will be giving you a promo code to save you a little bit of cash on the store, which again has t-shirts, has coffee mugs, has hoodless sweatshirts, has hooded sweatshirts, has all kinds of things with both the Morning Kick Around logo, the name of the show. We've got Dot the Map, we've got Clank the Clanger. Your options are almost endless.
Yeah, it's some good stuff over there, and we'll probably be a little bit more organized later in the week, but we do have kit updates for you. The timeline for the MK Ultra kit
Getting good.
is
Yeah.
progressive.
Yeah. In fact, we need to post that, Rob. We need to get that out there because I think maybe what we do is we build up to this, and either Wednesday or Friday, we announce the official pre-order for the Morning Kick Around jersey. It's coming. It is actually going to happen. Very excited for that. It does not have a hood, so it is a hooded shirt. I'm sorry, a hoodless jersey, not a hooded jersey. Let me get that correctly. It is a hoodless jersey, but it still looks very good. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I think we just gave kit designers a whole new avenue. Imagine a hooded soccer jersey. We're transitioning to a winter schedule, so players might just need hoods on their kit. But I think it's well and truly time to get to the show. You know all the ways to support. Let's go. Plenty to talk about here on Morning Kick Around. USL season officially kicked off this weekend, and there was a minute of no movement from the players. It was a protest of sorts, acknowledging the fact that there's no CBA and a way to kind of push closer to the edge of a possible work stoppage without quite going all the way. It was interesting. Friday, we hadn't had any updates, wasn't sure what's going on. Was there going to be a game? Wasn't there? And then player lineup started, and there was games, in fact.
Yeah, so obviously we entered Friday knowing that was the moment. Friday was the day that if there was going to be any action, and more likely than not, it was going to be a strike on the part of the players. It was going to happen Friday because Louisville and Lexington in Lexington, so Lexington versus Louisville, kicked us off in the USL Championship on Friday. And we all sort of held our breath. You and I talked about it on Friday morning. Would there be a strike? Did the players feel it necessary? That is, again, pushing the big red, blow everything up for the moment button, right? That is that is going to, it's leverage, don't get me wrong. It's absolutely leverage when it comes to labor negotiations, but it also is very risky in the sense that it will piss off the people on the other side of the table and perhaps even cause them to go, you know what, screw you guys, we'll go find other players. Now, we also did talk about the email that went out to the USL players from USL itself. Jeff Reuter had that, The Guardian. We read through it. We talked about some of it, didn't love the tone, but recognized that more than likely it wasn't breaking any rules around labor negotiations. It wasn't violating direct negotiation with the players. It was simply laying out their options. Then we get the game, Louisville versus Lexington, or Lexington versus Louisville, rather. And no word about a strike had come down. What happens? Players on the field, the ball is there on the center in the center circle on the dot to start the game. Referee blows the whistle. Players do not move. Players stand still for a full minute of the game. Now, we also had Gasolina from Daddy Yankee, a classic of Puerto Rican reggaeton, playing in the background, which made for a very surreal moment. But it was nevertheless something done by the players to bring attention to the current state of things around CBA negotiations. And I've put a poll up for our listeners, everybody right now watching the show. I've got a poll running. Was the USL player protest this weekend effective? Now, it wasn't just Lexington versus Louisville where this happened. It happened across the league, Rob. And again, this is sort of that in between. Well, we don't want to strike because that, again, is the nuclear option. But we got to do something to bring attention to ourselves.
Yeah, it was really quite curious. I kept on refreshing on Friday. What's going to happen? Obviously, it was the minute protest, and then the broadcast definitely did their part to not focus on it too much on that first opening game on Friday. Commentator Mike Watts acknowledged that there's a delay, didn't necessarily lean into what the reasons why.
Can we acknowledge it's really difficult when you're look, USL,
oh yeah, he's put in a tough spot, no doubt.
It's not Mike Watts' fault. He's not supposed to be stand in solidarity with the players when he works for the league, calling a league broadcast. And there were other games where this happened. I mean, we're going to talk about club debuts on this show because that's a huge moment in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a huge moment in Brooklyn, New York, that these teams are debuting. And for some fans, there's knowledge and an understanding. But for a lot of people, it probably was like, wait, what's happening?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Part of that, there was a kind of a wide reaction because there was some stadiums where, because fans were doing their part to put the videos of the protests and the reactions, what happened. And there was some stadiums where the people definitely didn't, almost in that game on Friday, because they were playing the music and whatnot, people kind of like, just were like, kind of seemed a little confused. But we saw in Brooklyn, there was chants from the stands saying, pay the players. So there's kind of a wide range of acknowledgement and understanding of what in fact was going on in that opening minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, Rob, you said before the show, like, you were underwhelmed. That's how you described it, that you were underwhelmed. Now, maybe you were thinking, oh, strike. They're going to strike. We haven't had an agreement yet. Games are here. Here's your moment. Go out and strike, USL championship players. Send the world a message that you ain't having it. You're going to put your foot down. You're going to force the owners to go in your direction, or you're going to do the necessary thing to really bring them to the table. But again, I will point out, and I know we've had some comments on the channel. I think there's a general sense that if you talk about these things in a reasonable, logical way, it sounds like you're saying that the players don't have it, or you're not on the player's side, or you're pro-ban. No, look, the problem for the union, the problem for the Players Association, is their leverage is limited. That's a fact, right? They don't have unlimited leverage here. They're not the NFL players. They're not the NBA players. They are not recognized as the best players at what they do in the world. They're not. They are a second division soccer playing group in America, of all places, right? There is limitations on how much they can demand from the owners and have the owners say, yep, that's reasonable, versus, no, are you kidding me? You guys are replaceable. Now, we don't want the owners to treat the players as replaceable. And I definitely think that in terms of the long-term health of that division, this soccer, our game in the United States, it can't just be about this group of players. It has to be about the structure and what it means for the players that follow this group, the ones that come in behind them. As players age out, what do younger players do to benefit, or what benefits do they get from the work that was done by the older players? And the owners have to be in a place where they understand that there's some value in going across what they would normally do from a business perspective. Like, if you draw a bottom line, what's best for our business, and you're prioritizing profit and loss, giving the players anything sounds insane. Why would we do that? We might lose our business, or we might have issues making payroll, or whatever it might be. Now, that seems extreme, but that's the case at this level of the sport in America. And we're going to talk later about the USL business model and how it impacts all of this. But I just think, it's a lot to ask the players to walk off the field and not play at all, or to strike when their leverage is limited. I hope that there will be further progress down the line here, because while there has been some movement towards what the players have asked for, and everything is a negotiation, we obviously haven't gotten to a place where the players are comfortable with what's on the table.
Yeah, clearly not. If they did this, and Friday, maybe you mentioned my comment that maybe a little overwhelmed, but the fact that there was unity across the weekend and it was all the games, yes. I guess that kind of increased the value and the weight of it. And the more I chew on it, I guess I've softened my stance on that. I was a little bit on Friday, a little bit disappointed, but like I guess it's like the inching along, and it demonstrates that the players want to play. So I guess that demonstrates the good faith that, like, hey, we want to be here and all that.
More than that, what it indicates is unity on the part of the players. Because go back to Friday, go back to Thursday, Wednesday night, whenever the email landed in their inbox. Now,
they were trying to divide. Yeah.
It was in my spam. I never even saw it. That's what kind of some of the players, like, I hated it. It sucked. I didn't want to get this. It made me feel terrible. Why was the league doing it? But yes, the league sent an email to the players that said, should you want to cross the picket line, here are your rights. Basically laying out a scenario where if you're thinking about, hey, maybe I don't want to not play, or maybe I'm worried about this, or maybe there is some issue with my understanding of what our Players Association is asking for, here's your path forward. And no, you won't be punished. I mean, obviously, being a scab is a scarlet letter for most people, but that would be a thing. But the point of the protest is to say nobody is taking up the USL on their offer, or is, like, again, there's no strike right now, so there's no reason to cross a picket line, but they're basically saying you're not going to break us. That's what's going on.
Yeah, it was good to see that unity, because there's definitely times in the past in different leagues in history where the leagues have petitioned to those high earner players and maybe sweetened their pot even a little bit more, and then let the leading players wait, kind of undermine the whole unity of the labor movement. I know here in Detroit, there's Gordie Howe is a good example of that, way back in the day when hockey didn't treat their players very well back in the day. So that is a tactic, is the divide in order to conquer. So the unity, the fact that it swept all the way across all the games across the league, I think that really showed some value, and it definitely that shows a statement. To the comments, to the MK Ultras here, a little bit of the viewpoint from viewers on TV. Sporting Jack's game panned to the audience the entire minute, with the stadium announcer talking through the whole thing, trying to make zero reference to the situation. Chris is suggesting maybe next week they escalate the players 5 minutes in the 20th and 26th minute until the next match. Maybe like breaking it up in the middle would be even more awkward for the stadium and the broadcast to kind of talk over the moment that he did. Another Scred Red notably saying that they were trying to hide it. And then Chris saying,
we brought that one up earlier, that the pay the players chants were erupting in Brooklyn, and so that you couldn't really hide that from a broadcast unless you muted the broadcast, which they didn't do. And again, I don't know that I blame USL for not highlighting a protest against the league. That doesn't make sense. That's understandable. This is a little different than what happened last year with the title game, when everything about a celebration for Pittsburgh was canceled because of a pre-game protest via t-shirt, right? We did think that was petty. This I don't really see a problem with, in terms of we're not going to center the protest against the league. Now, again, if you are just, the league is wrong and the players deserve better, then you're going to still not like it, but you have to understand it from their perspective.
Yeah, curious to see where it goes from here, but we did hear from the USLPA that there is going to be a phone call between the union and the league this afternoon. So by the time we come back on Wednesday, there might be an update.
It did feel like maybe some of the broadcasters were having to respond in the moment, but I don't think the league was naive about something happening. Maybe they didn't know what form it was going to happen, but I think they probably recognized something was going to happen. If there was not an agreement, the season was starting, the players were obviously trying to make a point.
Yeah, actually, just one little last thought. If the league was willing to cancel championship celebrations due to the t-shirt protest last year in the final, do you think that there might be, cause for concern to the players for what they did over the weekend? Like, what, I guess, could there be something along those lines that
retaliation is specifically outlined as something you can't do if you're engaged in labor negotiations? I don't know what form that would take. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. I mean, they can't monetarily punish the players for that. You go out on the field and you're there. I don't think there's any prescription for punishing them. I don't understand. I mean, I don't know what it would be, Rob, to your point. Like, you're bringing up the possibility of retaliation, right?
I guess to a degree. Like, I don't know if it would be able to be as direct, but I guess maybe noted in the grievances claim, I guess it could be in from the league's perspective. And then also another note, I saw somewhere that a team had to kind of get a last minute replacement player because of some visa issues. I can't remember if that was a championship or a League One team, but with the possibility of possible scab players, if the first teams as it is are having a hard time filling out rosters, would it be hard to find scab players, or would that be, go to any amateur league and find somebody? How realistic is finding scab players?
I don't think it'd be a problem to find players. Whether they're good is a different question. But we'll come back to this. So again, we got the poll running in the chat. If you are there, was the USL player protest this weekend effective? Right now, 59% say yes, it was.
All right. We'll catch our breath, come right back, and talk about the expansion team's opening weekend here on Morning Kickaround. It was USL opening weekend 2026, and with it, 4 expansion teams celebrated their first match on the field, even 5 if we go across all the leagues. Some fared well, some didn't. Brooklyn FC got a 1-0 victory over Indy 11. Sporting Jacks lost at home to Hartford. And in USL League One, Boise beat Sarasota, both teams in their first ever pro game. And in Fort Wayne, lost on their travels to Naples.
Yeah, obviously the thing we just talked about, which is the player protest in the championship, had at least some impact on the debuts in Brooklyn and in Jacksonville, in particular Jacksonville. Now, let me bring this up briefly, okay? So Sporting Jacks jumps into the USL Championship. We've been talking about Jacksonville, their stadium plan. We showed you the pretty pictures of that mixed-use development situation downtown, not downtown, it was somewhere out there, whatever. They were going to build this fancy new place with a fancy new stadium. That's
Not
a plan.
There yet.
Not there yet. Right now they're playing at Hodges Stadium, University of North Florida, if I believe the location of that stadium. It's one giant stand in front of a track-lined or track-encircled soccer field. It's not the worst place I've ever seen American soccer take place by any means. Not suggesting it is, or that they shouldn't exist because the stadium isn't ideal. They lose 3-0 to Hartford, who has not been good. Let's just put that out there. Hartford has not been good in the championship, so that doesn't bode well for Sporting Jacksonville. They got beaten 3-0 at home. But I saw a couple of people pointing out that it seems as though Sporting Jacksonville was giving away free tickets to their first ever game. Now, I think that was, what was the attendance number? 10,000? 10,357 is what I'm seeing here over on FOTMA. Hey. 10,350. That's a big number in second division soccer in America, and you should be proud of it. Now, again, does it take some of the bloom off the rose that tickets were $0, that they were handed out, that the room was papered over a little bit, or whatever that phrase is? I don't think there's anything wrong with just getting people in the building to show off your product when you're brand new. Like, okay, I'll tie this into my real life. There's a restaurant around the corner from my house. It was a Peruvian chicken place. And then the signs went up, said restaurant for sale. Clearly the chicken place they were closing it down. Now a new restaurant has taken residence, and it's a taco place, taqueria. And I'm driving by with my wife, and it's like sitting there, and she's like, the thing about that place is they don't really have any it feels very enclosed, and when you go inside, it's kind of dark. Like they need like an outdoor patio or something. They have all this space and they don't have anything. I was like, yeah, if I was investing in that restaurant, if I was, starting a restaurant in that space, I would have like a parking lot, like festival or something. I'd bring out, tents and maybe even give away free tacos to get people interested in my business. Like I understand the inclination. Can you call it can you trumpet it as a sellout? Can you say sold out Hodges Stadium, first ever game? Like
you can just say full stadium. It was a full stadium. Just sell it as that. I would say, well, I think it's a double-edged sword. Obviously you want to expose more people to your product and show more people the team. but very few people want to pay something for something that they got for free previously. It's pretty hard to raise prices, and you're like, you consider it a free product at that point.
That is the thing. In fact, this is something that comes up all the time when we talk about tickets and attendance numbers across American soccer. U.S. men's national team happens a lot. I think sometimes, go look at the attendance at Sports Illustrated Stadium, home of the New York Red Bulls this weekend. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question about that. It's a separate topic, but
okay, we can maybe get there. Giving away tickets, would that put more bodies in the seats and make it look better? Sure. What businesses will tell you, and when I say businesses, I mean the clubs, is that if you devalue your product that way, then it's really hard to claw it back. Now, Bob is saying full seats bring more seats. Always asked what the most expensive cost of restauranting, empty seats perception. Again, it's a balance. And I do not have any problem with the way Sporting Jacks handled it. Maybe the product on the field needs to catch up because you don't want to put on a bad show in your first game, but it's really hard as an expansion team to be good. So growing pains in Jacksonville. Brooklyn, though, I don't know what the attendance number was. We should check on that, but certainly look good on the field in their first ever victory.
Yeah, and the scenes there look better than I expected. I've seen when I've looked at pictures of that venue on Coney Island, the playing surface didn't look good. The playing surface, obviously, it's a baseball stadium, so it's not perfect. But the pictures that I saw previously, it looked pretty beat up and stuff. I don't know if they resurfaced or anything, but the stands looked filled. Obviously, the fans were engaged. They were definitely participating in the pay the players chant. I heard that more loudly than in other places, and they had all the rides and stuff in the background, and it looked good. And then a thunderous first ever goal from the penalty spot.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you'd like to win from open play. You'd like to create a bunch of stuff. I will say people were complaining about the television broadcast because the camera angle is not great. It's low, and it's shooting through the wires for the nets that are there for baseball
amongst the trials we learned how much it costs to bring up and down those nets when we went out to New Mexico.
That's probably why they're not doing it. They're not doing it because it's adding $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 per match for stadium operations if you're taking those things up and down. Now they do it in Albuquerque, right?
Yeah,
they do it because they don't want that issue of your sight lines are messed up by having the net or the wire, right? I think that's, again, that's something that every individual USL club has to figure out is how much they're going to put into their game day operations. And that may come up in a topic here in a couple of minutes. But again, played well, right? And we've talked to some people up in Brooklyn. Like we've interviewed people up. I've done it for the radio, done it here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know that this has been a long time coming to try to figure out how to make it work in that place. This used to be the home of the New York Cosmos. I think it was the last professional soccer home of the New York Cosmos, this baseball stadium on Coney Island. So, can Brooklyn build from here? I think is very interesting. But we have a couple others, so let's sure we get to them.
Yeah, there was another quirk there. They had folding chairs on the sideline there, which was an interesting look. But moving into another game, we talked about Sporting Jacks, we talked about Brooklyn, but going down to USL League One, a battle of two expansion clubs. We'll be talking to the victor again later in the week, but Boise getting a 1-0 win in Sarasota. Crowd looked good there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously great start for Nate Miller and Boise. Partners on the show, I guess you could call them, with our countdown to kickoff. Kickoff happened. Now, we're also going to continue going towards their home opener, but their kickoff happened. So the countdown reads 0 for AC Boise, and they took the long trip to Florida, and they won. But Sarasota also debuting, so that is fascinating. Sarasota as a place, because we are interested, and we have to be, right? If you're interested in lower division soccer in America, you can't just be like, well, what was the score of the game? You also have to care about, well, how many people came out. And as we just said about Sporting Jacks, if you hand out a bunch of tickets, are people going to come back when they have to pay for them? Are you going to have to continue to paper the room? That kind of thing. Sarasota is a reasonably sized market, if we want to look at it that way. So again, what will the regular attendance be? They're playing in not the biggest joint, 3,000 seats, I believe, is the capacity of premier sports campus. Again, this is all in the sort of the idea of tying your professional team to your youth product or your youth organization. 2791 reported attendance in a 3,000 seat stadium. Pretty good start for Sarasota.
Yeah, and I wonder if there is a battle for the branding of soccer in Paradise, because obviously Sarasota is called Paradise, but I saw FC Naples saying victorious in Paradise. I don't know if that's just an overlap or if they're battling for that moniker of being the Paradise-centered soccer team, but unvictorious was the other expansion team debut. Fort Wayne, a team going from the USL 2 to the professional ranks, but they lost to Naples 2-0. And Naples, I think, in their second season. So both very young teams, new teams, but Fort Wayne on the road didn't get the dub.
Yeah, we had some of our ultras. I know you have Ryan in there and a bunch of other people kind of in tune with this. I was sharing the watch parties. I would love to see some images if Ryan or anybody else has some images from the watch parties for Fort Wayne FC's first ever game, because
they were in the Discord.
They were watching from Fort Wayne what was going on down in Florida. I mean, I imagine some people made the trip. We know that AC Boise had people make the trip from Idaho all the way down to Sarasota. So that's a thing. I mean, obviously this time of year, it's like, let's go to Sarasota. The weather's probably a little bit better.
It's my favorite Florida place.
Yeah, but so anyway, mixed bag in terms of debuts, but I think all successful in the sense that they all, played reasonably well, maybe outside of Sporting Jacksonville. In the places where there were home games, there was something to point to and say, that's a building block. We can use that. Let's go forward. In the case of AC Boise, in the case of Fort Wayne, you're getting your first taste of it. And now you build towards your first ever home match.
Yeah, I'm working on getting that picture uploaded there so we can get them on screen, because Ryan did share in the Morning Kickaround Discord server some images from that watch party. So definitely MK Ultras getting engaged in the whole planning process, meeting reality now, which is super exciting. I got to say, when I woke up on Sunday and was kind of catching up with the Discord, I had a little bit of the FOMO there. I can't lie.
Oh, poor Rob. You missed out. All right. Well, we'll try to get those watch party pictures in. I don't know where they are. So you're going to do that. And maybe now, though, we turn to the big question that I think is looming. Great to have new expansion teams in the USL, but remember, there's still some labor strife. And there's the ultimate question of what the future might look like for USL if it remains organized the way it currently is.
Yeah, we're going to move right along to that, but I do want to note that there are MK Ultra memberships being gifted out there with some generosity being shown. Frederick donating 5 here. Thank you so much. Ryan, dedicated MK Ultra and Fort Wayne fan. Mr. Bob, as always, thrown into the mix there too. So we hit 207 members during Friday's show, so that number continues to increase. But we're going to come right back with today's hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. Welcome on in, Morning Kickaround here. My name's Robert. He's Jason. We are celebrating the opening weekend of USL Championship and League One. Men's professional leagues all in action now. So, party on, full on action in 2026. But there was an article that brought up a good conversation that popped up over the weekend from Quail City Soccer. Has USL outgrown their current business model?
Yeah, this is from Ryan Hodek over at Quail City. Has USL outgrown its model? And then, this had me thinking this morning because we're preparing the show and Rob outlines the 5 or 6 things or 4 or 5 or 2 or 3 or whatever we have that we should talk about. And he said the things we've already touched on today, the USL player protest for the first minute of games in the championship amidst the labor strife. He mentioned the debut of USL clubs and how we should highlight that. And I said, I just read this piece from Ryan Hodek over at Quail City that talks about the USL business model. And I think we need to open up this particular can of worms. Now, I think we have kind of breezed by it and mentioned it occasionally, right? The way USL operates, how that differs from Major League Soccer, what it means for various elements of the USL business. In terms of how it relates to the labor negotiations, this is important, and I think this is why it's come up. The players say, we want a healthcare plan for all players in the USL. We want the same plan for everybody. We don't want this piecemeal. This club's got a plan that looks like this, and this other the other team's got a plan that looks like that. We want everybody to have the same plan. And the USL says, well, actually, we can't do that. It's really difficult to do that because the players are contracted to their individual clubs. They're not contracted to USL. We don't have everybody from a employee perspective, from an employment perspective. We're not your employers. How can we give you a plan if we're not your employers? Your club is your employer. But that speaks directly to what the model looks like. Now, here it is in sort of layman's terms, hopefully easy to understand. The USL is a business unto itself, meaning the league and its offices and all of its efforts, that is a business. Every club that is a member of a USL league is a business unto itself.
Yeah.
And because of the structure there, the revenue streams from things like expansion fees, league-wide sponsorships, national media agreements, think television and the like, and licensing and commercial partnerships with the USL name on it, all of that money floods into or goes into the USL's coffers, not the teams. And there is no agreement, there is no mechanism, there is no way for that money to go from USL down to the clubs. The USL gives the clubs nothing. Now, for all intents and purposes. Now, we have heard, and there have been cases where the USL will come in and prop up an operation that's in danger of folding if necessary. They will cover payroll at some points and things like that. But they're not going to give money as a rule to the teams or share the money that comes in if they don't have to, right? That's not in there. This is obviously very different, just as a counterpoint, from the way Major League Soccer operates. Major League Soccer is one single entity. Now, they went to court to defend this structure way back in Frazier versus MLS, but this is one business, MLS. So all of those clubs, DC United, the Columbus Crew, Revolution, even the new ones, San Diego, they are not independent businesses unto themselves the way a USL club is an independent business unto itself. And what that means is that MLS can negotiate things as a collective in a way the USL can. The money that comes into MLS via broadcast rights, via whatever, it is shared. Expansion fees shared among the current teams, the members team. Now, if you're thinking like people hate single entity, and I'm not a fan of it as a general rule from a competitive standpoint, because I think it does sort of tamp down. It's one of the reasons why pro rel is almost impossible, because it tamps down everybody's in a collective. Nobody wants to break that apart. It's a kind of an insurance policy against certain pressures that might come down on soccer in America, on MLS. In USL, because it's structured differently, there are advantages and disadvantages, right, Rob? So one advantage is it's easy to expand. Very easy to expand from a USL perspective.
A lot less strings attached in this sense to be able to like, oh, you got a club, you got some money, you got some players. Let's go. Let's start a thing. We'll take your expansion fee. Let's rock and roll. But at the same time, here we are. We're losing teams every single year. And if they're trying to fill up a whole new division and add all these, you got to retain more. You got to retain these guys. You can't just have them falling off the cliffs. And in the article, they talk about like when this model, served them well. There wasn't, big brand deals. There wasn't but broadcast deals. And so these broadcast deals are coming from what the players put out there and what the clubs are making. So maybe they should start reaping some of the benefits and maybe getting some money. It might be small to start, but getting some money from the league would clearly help.
Yeah, I want to point out, there's a comment in the chat, become an ultra so I can put it on screen because I can't if you're not an ultra. But there's a comment in the chat about how North American sports, they bargain collectively. They share legal revenues. They're not single entity, but they do that. Right. Oh, well, again, that's their choice. That's their option. And there's also been lawsuits. There's been antitrust lawsuits against, say, the NFL because of the way that some of their agreements with partners have worked, right? Some of their commercial rights agreements. They licensed the league's marks to a company for clothing or something, and there was a challenge to because of that, because that indicated, sort of a trust-like behavior, right? Anti-competitive behavior. If teams can't go out and negotiate their own deals, there have been lawsuits on that. Um, Generally speaking, though, big-time American sports they just operate at a different level, in a different universe.
Yeah.
Right? Major League Baseball has an antitrust exemption that's baked into our history, right? The other sports are effectively immune from that, but can be taken to court. There can be issues, and you will occasionally see that, right? It's kind of why there are, well, we don't have time to get into that. Let's just talk about it from a USL perspective, right? Let's talk about this. The question in Ryan's piece is, has USL reached a point where a fundamental change of its structure is needed? Because you look at Tormenta, you look at some of the clubs that have come and gone, and I think his number is 20 clubs have dropped off the map over the last 15 years, or is it? He's got a number in there, Rob. I'm gonna have to pull it up, but he references the number of clubs that have died, right? And we know this is a standard part of American soccer. And when you operate the way the USL, particularly in USL, you operate the way the USL does, and you have no safety net. You're not. The clubs aren't getting anything from the general league success. You're dependent on your local revenue streams, ticket sales, whatever commercial partnerships you can get locally. We're going to send our players out to the local car dealership because we might get $10,000 out of that. You know what we're not going to do? We're not going to take down the baseball nets at Maimonides Park or whatever that thing is called, because it cost us $5,000 to do it every game. And that's $5,000 we don't have to keep the club going if things get dicey, if we're not selling tickets. So again, the positive is it's easier to get into the league. It's easier to start up the business. It's easier to expand. It doesn't take as much. It's not as much of a lift. Your investment's not as large from the outset. But it means that when clubs are up against it in terms of the business proposition, there is nobody there to support them. There is no money coming in from the collective to support them. Now, you could argue that is subsidizing clubs that might not otherwise deserve to exist on some level, Rob. I do think there's a question out there about that. But I don't know. The modern sports landscape makes me think you need to do something to prevent the possibility these clubs are going to crash and burn.
Yeah, and not only that, the business model may need to be updated for the retentions aspect, but are we living in a time that is less expensive than it used to be or more expensive than it used to be? It's all hitting us. Everyone watching this, your hosts here, everything is getting more expensive for everybody, and that's going to go to clubs too. Like, things aren't getting cheaper for them. So if there was already clubs like in danger of not being able to be solvent or be able to continue operating, that's not going to get any easier as we push forward either.
No, and so here's the question: do you think the coming promotion relegation will change the business model? So one thing that always gets mentioned when we talk about pro-rel, installing it here in the United States, and you look abroad and you look at the models that are out there to follow, which I don't think the American model can, be exactly the same as any other place. It has to be adapted for America. But obviously there are things you're going to follow. We talk, like, people are like, oh, how many clubs are going to go up and how many clubs are going to go down? These are important questions. We asked them in our video that was pinned to our channel. I think we moved it, but go find our big questions for the USL. Some of those have been answered. And some of them have not, right? We talk about how many teams are going up, how many teams are going down, things like that. But we also talk about parachute payments, Rob, right? We talk about this idea that if you go down, do you need to be gifted some money, basically, to keep you afloat because now you're playing a different level of soccer? Now, one argument against that, I don't know if the USL is making this argument internally, but one argument against that is, do American soccer fans rather really care what league their team is in? Is that so, that's so weird to make that argument if you're also saying pro-rel matters. So I think there is a balance here. And I think it's hard for me as I think through this and read Ryan's piece and think about the business model USL has used to explode its expansion ranks. It's hard for me to imagine that you can install pro-rel and not at least have some mechanism that supports clubs who may take a hit in terms of their economic viability.
Yeah, and the counterpoint to that has been, well, we don't have big broadcast deals, so it's not that big of a gap in between the tiers. So, if a team goes down, it's not like our broadcast deal is like a third of the level in the first division is to the second division, but that's a pretty short-sighted explanation. Like, okay, so maybe when Pro Rel comes, a bigger deal actually materializes. Then what do? You feel like there has to be some compensation there.
That needs to be discussed and negotiated and all those things. And those franchise operators or independent clubs, not even franchises, right? They're operators within the USL umbrella. But as we've seen in the past, when owners of independent clubs in American soccer don't like what their league is doing, what do, Rob? What do? Do they argue with the league? No, they go dip out and start their own league. That's what happened. We've seen it before. They're like, you know what? Enough of this league. We're going to our own league. We're going to form. And then everybody just gets more confused. Fans are left going, what the heck is going on? Sometimes that means that clubs can continue to live and thrive, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's the opposite. And again, if you argue that, well, MLS did a bunch of stuff with U.S. soccer to hold back competition from the NASL, hence the lawsuit filed by Rocco Commisso and the NASL, then you're just like, well, it's not NASL's fault that they crashed and burned. That all that responsibility lies at the feet of U.S. Soccer and MLS. But I don't think I buy that. I think it's a shared responsibility, and the NASL chose its path. It chose to pick a fight it didn't necessarily need to pick. And so, again, with the viability of lower division soccer in this country always being up for question, with individual clubs, their viability being up for question, what's the balance between we want to be able to explode and expand, and every community that wants a club should be able to have one at some reasonable price point if local ownership emerges that wants to do that, versus we need to protect what we got. We need to be stable, because if you go to a different model, if revenue sharing comes into play, do you introduce new clubs if they're not paying significant expansion fees way beyond what you're charging now in order to make it worth your while to thin out those revenue sharing numbers? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And we've seen a couple headlines of private equity. At least two different firms have been confirmed as putting equity into the league. But what is that money going towards?
Into the league, not to the teams, into the league. Now, ultimately, the league is going to sell this as we continue to grow the league. It's going to be it's going to trickle down to your business, not in terms of necessarily sharing revenue from television rights, because that's not on the table. At least that's not part of it right now. But perhaps the general breadth and development of USL will make your product more valuable in your part of the world. You'll sell more tickets. You'll sell more jerseys. Now, it's also worth pointing out that a lot of these clubs, in a bid to be viable and stay alive, and in some cases, like you talk to the owners, you talk to the founders. We've done a lot of that on this show, Rob. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a split here sometimes. Like, I think all of them want to run professional soccer teams. What's the pinnacle of soccer? It's a professional team. They all want to run professional teams, but some of them recognize, or are maybe even tilted to the idea that from a business perspective, running a professional soccer team is dicey as hell. It's not, it's like running a restaurant, right? The margins are thin. If there are any at all, you might be losing money. So some of these clubs are not, hey, this is a professional soccer team. We're running a professional soccer team. It's, we've got this youth organization, and we're building 27,000 fields to bring in tournaments every year. Or we've got our own academy that people are paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a year for. And then we have a professional team. In fact, those things are ultimately supporting the professional team, right? The money that comes in from other revenue sources around soccer. And this is why the real estate play element is part of this so much, right? This is why USL is turned in that direction, that it's a real estate play, because it needs to be in order to prop up the soccer team. Now, the soccer team can become the community asset. It's how you sell city councils on letting them lease the land for $1 for the next 100 years or whatever it might be, or even allowing them to go in and to redevelop a part of the city that has belonged to somebody else or is in eminent domain or whatever. You convince them because, hey, look, we're going to bring a soccer team. Rah, rah, yay us. We're going to put colors, and people are going to walk around. It's going to be great. People are going to be excited. They're going to want to go. They're going to fill up the downtown area on game days. Economic development, not for the team, not for that business, but for the greater community. That's how you sell them. But you then tell the people that are going to buy this soccer team or pay you expansion fees and whatever, hey, actually, you're going to make all your money some other way. It's not going to be in the soccer team.
Like the soccer team is just the public facing fun part of a larger business move, right? And what about the teams that are teams going to be allowed in that don't have that?
It's an appendage, and it doesn't mean that doesn't mean it has no value. I mean, obviously, we're soccer fans. We see the value. Like we understand what a soccer team can mean to people, and we want it. We just think of it as we just place it over here as a good. It's a good. Soccer teams are good. But again, if the economics of it are wonky, then you're going to have to find other ways. Now, at some point, you open up that question of when is exploitation happening, right? When is taking advantage of people happening in a bid to get a soccer team on the field? Is it ends justify the means in every case? That's, I think, part and parcel of what Ryan has written at Quail City Soccer about how USL operates. And I don't think it's fair to say, oh, this is all just to line the pockets of the principals at USL, the Papadakis family or whoever. Like, it's not just about that. But because, again, the way it's structured facilitates certain positive elements of spreading soccer across the country and launching professional teams. But there is something to that, right? It's their business. And as long as they don't feel like they need to be changing the structure, they might not. Because on one hand, you have the good of soccer, which can kind of be cloudy and unclear. And then you have the good of the business. And those don't necessarily always come together.
Yeah, and I guess is the right thing when they do align that there is good business and the fun soccer part. I mean, I guess that probably exists in some places, but it's definitely not universal across the board.
Right, because the thing here that is, even though we are dot the map and we are abundance, the thing here that gets scary is when it feels like the only way forward to bring money in for USL is more expansion, which means the whole system starts to wobble more and more and more because you are taking risks with clubs. You are starting clubs and launching clubs and doing things before you really know if it's going to be successful. And I know you can't ever really, really know, but we've talked about this. Tormenta is a good example, and there are other ones out there as well where it's like, we definitely got out over our skis here. And while I mean, from my perspective as an American soccer fan, every dead club is a tragedy. I think some people take a less emotional view of it and say attrition is necessary in order to get where we are. The system gets stronger if you get those weak links out. But there are going to be people left behind, and there is a sadness and a problem that is created when clubs come and go. And I don't love the idea that there are people sitting around boardroom tables saying, who cares? Let's just keep going. More clubs. Oh, we lost 3 last year? Whatever. 5 more are coming in. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, I got a couple of feelings on that. Is perhaps if there was a little bit of help coming from the league, a little, you call it subsidy, a little bit of subsidy, maybe that weak link gets a little stronger in those 2-3 years where they got a little bit of help and they don't necessarily have to fall away. And then also, just popped right out of my head. Oh, what would be the tipping point? Like what would force any change here? We've talked a lot about negotiations between the players themselves and the league, but where are the clubs in any sort of negotiation talking about, is there a change to get any shared revenues or something like that? Are those conversations happening? What's the tipping point for how many lost teams is too many?
Yeah. I mean, well, and again, it's probably not just about lost teams, right? It's
or
sort of
thriving teams, having teams progress.
The general sense of like when you are already established, like, who matters more? And I keep coming back to this analogy. How many times have you been like, all right, I pay this much for my cell phone every month, and then you see a commercial for the company that you have a contract with that says, if you're a new customer, get this much and off, and you're like, wait, hold on, I've been with you for 13 years. Where's my discount? What's going on here? Like, it feels like the new is always prioritized over the established or the older ones. Right. And that's a general state of being in capitalism. I mean, to make it
I was
about
going to say
that.
that's probably why they make it so hard to change carriers or to start a new plan, right? We want to make it such a pain in the ass so you don't just like get the new offer like every 12 months, right? The enshittification is a term that happens as well. But you're talking about the new ones being prioritized. You can see it in all the leagues. Major League Soccer, you'd say the new teams are some of the most aspirational out of all of them. We talked about a little bit. I don't think we talked about it on the air, but DC United, one of the originals. You wouldn't say that they're one of the thriving teams, but we see San Diego go into the MLS Cup final in their opening year, and Miami's one of the newer teams. The newer ones definitely seem to be thriving more so than the legacy ones.
Yeah, legacy clubs. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Now that's a matter, as you said, that's a matter of ambition on the part of the ownership groups and the people that are involved. And one thing you could say that MLS has certainly done a good job of, if you want to give them a pass in some other regions, is that they have made it attractive to invest in the league and to sort of go big on day one, right? They've made it attractive to the kind of people who can throw that kind of money around to make a splash, right? I'm sure whatever monetary return they might get on club valuation or that kind of thing, what the owners of new soccer clubs in places like St. Louis and San Diego and whatever get is that thrill of, oh, I built this or I did this thing, and look at 30,000 people are out to watch my team. And also, by the way, if you do it right, the way San Diego has done it, then you can be successful on the field. And now we're winning things, or we're in first place. People are talking about our attractive brand of football. I mean, that part is harder. It's impossible actually to quantify, but it's a part of this as well. And I that's part of the lower division experience too. But nobody has an appetite for losing millions and millions of dollars year after year.
No, there's not too many people that can do that, and an even smaller group that would voluntarily sign up for that as well. But curious to see a good article and a good kind of thought experiment here, and we'll see what it would take, or if any sort of a rearrangement of the USL's business model is something that's even in the plans moving forward. All right, we're going to catch our breath and come right back and celebrate the weekend that was MK Ultras out in the wild here on Morning Kickaround. Welcome back in, wrapping up here on Monday's edition of Morning Kickaround. And I said earlier in the show, I woke up Sunday morning with a little bit of a tinge of jealousy. I think I might have missed out. There was opening weekend in USL Championship, USL League One, and some of our channel members were out there at the games, and it looked like they had a pretty good time. And in Fort Wayne, they were away for their first ever pro game, but supporters got together for a big watch party that also looked like it was a pretty good time.
Yeah, should we throw those images up here on the screen so we can see what the watch party looked like? Ryan is I'll take care of that. Ryan is one of our kind of OG ultras, I think. Ryan goes back a ways on the show. I know we haven't been doing this for years necessarily, but he's one of the first ones. So here we got the watch party. Man, that looks like a great place. That looks like a proper pub style look to that one. Here's some more photos from this event there in Fort Wayne. First ever game, got to be a thrill just to see somebody wearing your town's name on their shirt as they play a professional soccer match. And Fort Wayne's probably had minor league sports in the past, like actual minor league.
Yeah, Fort Wayne Comets, big rival with the Kalamazoo Wings. And they have a baseball team there too.
You said words I don't understand. I'm guessing hockey.
I had a previous life in hockey, and they're big. They were rivals in the lower league. They're like in the UHL and in the ECHL. But yeah, that was actual legit rivalry. The Fort Wayne Comets fan roll hard.
Yeah, okay. All right. So hockey, they've had some baseball team probably at some point. So, but this is, again, I want to be clear because this has come up recently. I think either among the ultras, maybe in the Discord. I think that's where I saw it, Rob. This question of minor league versus lower league.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we did a whole video on this question. And I think some people took issue with us even opening up the question. Like, why does it matter? What are you talking about this? I think it does matter.
It does. It does, because that concept of lower league doesn't translate to American. Because we were talking about, like, what if MLS moved into Detroit? It's like some people are just blind if it isn't a major league. People are just blind. People almost don't even understand that lower league can be professional. Like it was just pros or amateur in some people's brains.
Right. I think the idea is, and look, again, it takes a little bit of explaining, not much, but it takes a little bit of explaining for people who are not familiar with this, because we do not have those structures here in the United. I mean, you could argue that college sports fill that space, okay, for whatever that is. And now those guys are getting paid. Back then they weren't getting paid. That college sports is kind of the thing. But again, the idea that Andrew in the chat, you're not an ultra, can't put it on the screen. Minor league equals lower league. Farm league is different. No, Andrew. I'm sorry. Do not agree with that at all. Because minor league and lower league are not synonymous. Minor league indicates, again, farm league. Minor league is like, you can say like, oh, an independent team in St. Paul is a minor league baseball team. Sure they are. But when most people hear the word minor league, they understand that to be, oh, you're developing players for the majors.
Yeah.
That your job as a team, a minor league outfit, is to develop players to go to the major league. Now, somebody also took issue in the Discord with Major League Soccer calling itself Major League Soccer for this very reason, that if you do that, then you create this perception that everybody else is minor league, and don't think that MLS didn't know what they were doing when they did that back in 1994.
Intentional, definitely intentional there.
Yeah. Okay. But so again, Andrew, I'm having fun. I'm just saying, for me, this is a difference, right? For me, it's minor league and lower league are different. Fort Wayne is obviously a team where the players are not, they may at the end of their contract go look for a job in a higher level or whatever, but they're not the property of some other team. They don't belong to the Columbus Crew and they're playing for Fort Wayne. Columbus has a team that does that in MLS Next Pro. That is a farm league. That is a minor league. MLS Next Pro is a minor league. Now, some of the teams that are independent might take issue with that, but I'm sorry, that's what you are. That is not what USL League One is, because this is not, oh, if that guy plays really well for Fort Wayne, we're calling him up to the next level. We're moving him up from AA to AAA. That's not what this is. So I think this is great from a civic identity perspective for these clubs that are now getting an opportunity to play meaningful professional soccer with a goal at the end, win a championship for the city of Fort Wayne. You don't have to couch it. You don't have to contextualize it. It's just a championship.
I'm curious how many conversations happened in this bar of folks that are learning that their team went from an amateur USL 2 team to a USL League One, and people trying to explain that League One is actually the third tier. That's not necessarily something that
and
aren't familiar with the English system.
Obviously, that is a thing, and if you are aware of the bigger picture of American soccer, you understand the hierarchy of MLS right now sanctioned as a Division I league, USL Championship sanctioned as a Division II league, USL League One sanctioned as a Division III league. But because, again, there's no movement, who cares? Doesn't matter. This is like, this is, again, I'll come back to college sports, right? We were just talking about Toledo recently. Toledo wants to start a USL League One team. Toledo's got a school, right? University of Toledo, right there. The Rockets. Yeah. If the Rockets win their conference, that's incredible. Now, obviously, they want to also make, whatever tournament they can in the sports we're talking about, but they win the that's kind of the same thing here, right? Like, oh, we won the conference. That's a banner we get to put up. That's a trophy we put in the case. That's what all these professional soccer teams are chasing. Is whatever their localized competition. I don't mean like geographically, but in terms of their level, whatever their localized competition is, in and of itself is worthwhile winning. You don't need to apologize for it, because obviously Fort Wayne is not in the current structure of American soccer, and maybe one day there'll be a Division I team in the USL Pro Rel system. But for the moment, nobody in Fort Wayne's like, I can't believe we're not playing Major League Soccer. That's not a thing.
Yeah, but that's right. You compete and you try to achieve the highest level of achievement in whatever championship you're in. And so exciting weekend for Fort Wayne fans, no doubt. But they are building a stadium. We'll see if it's done. I've heard some people in the Discord like, I drove past there and Is that going to be ready in a couple weeks? We shall see. But Fort Wayne building a soccer-specific stadium is a whole nother level of excitement that I'm sure folks in Fort Wayne are excited for. I'm hoping to be out there myself as well for that first game at Fort Wayne's brand new soccer stadium. And just the fact that we live in a world where teams are building soccer-specific stadiums, and then now that is happening in the third tier or the lower leagues of American soccer. It's very exciting. We had another update from Ultras in the Wild, but down there in Florida, Roger from Boise went all the way to Sarasota. There he is holding the scarf along with Tom, Soccer Zombie, who said he's got his travel blog coming up on his channel very soon. But this was one of the images I saw on Sunday morning. And to be in Florida, right now would be awesome. But to see the first professional game for two different clubs at the same time, an incredible and unique experience, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, great. This is what we celebrate. Again, whatever AC Boise thinks of its level, they're playing professional soccer. They've got a team that has Boise on its shirt. And incredible to see these guys getting together down there in Florida, man. Yeah,
Ultras unite.
Ultras meeting ultras out in the wild, as you described it. That's absolutely a thing we want to do more of and see more of, and hopefully more ultras means more opportunities. I mean, it's just a math problem. If we have 1 billion ultras, they're going to run into each other all the time. That would be great. Can we get to 1 billion? Is that the new target? 1 billion ultras?
Yeah, no? We'll do an Ask Us Anything if we get to 1 billion ultras today.
Yeah, we're setting a goal right now. Let's see if we can get to that before the end of the show in 5 minutes.
Yeah, actually, with that in mind, let me check in on how many we are at, because like I said, we hit 207 last week, and we're at 213. So the number of ultras climbing up.
We got to be at 300 by the end of March. Like, we have to be at 300 by the end of March. Like, I feel like that's not easy, but that's doable, right? I mean, we've got some big things coming. This is a moment to join up. We're covering all the biggest stories happening, not just top level of the game, but all the way from the bottom up. Where are you going to find this? That's what I would say. Like, there are people covering we very much respect the work that the people are doing covering various levels of soccer in America, but I think there's a lot of things happening on this show that really don't happen anywhere else. And I think this is the kind of thing that American soccer fans would love if they knew about it. So what do we tell people, Rob?
Spread the word, clang the clanger, tell all your friends, copy and paste the link to this show or your favorite segment that we've posted on the channel. We got great stuff talking USL, Major League Soccer, World Cup, all sorts of stuff, but definitely dotting the map is the main mantra, the main pillar of the show. It's stuff we're talking about. And it is kind of a fun feeling, the stuff that we've been talking about building up to, the preparations, coming to reality here. It's a great feeling. And yeah, 300, we were just over 100 probably just over a month ago, and we've doubled in size of channel members in the last like 3 or so weeks. So that's been incredible. And I should note that a big bulk of that came from the Kickathon on February 18th. So those gift memberships that folks, if you're watching and you got a gift membership during the Kickathon, because there was a lot donated that day, renew that, because on the 18th that might drop off, or it will drop off.
Right. Yeah. If you don't renew, you're not going to be an ultra anymore. Now, and look, because we want to maintain our community for the people that are supporting the show actively, I don't want to be out there revoking access. That sounds like a terrible thing to do, but this is what it's supposed to be, that if you're an ultra, you get access to the Discord, you get access to all the bonus stuff. So if you want to keep that, and I'm working on some new stuff as well. One thing that I talk a lot about is dead soccer clubs. And obviously we are dotting the map with the new soccer teams. Like, clanging the clanger is about dotting the map with new soccer teams, building some databases, building some references for soccer teams in America. I don't know that I've seen that in any one particular place. So maybe we can work on that as a show and as a channel and get that as a perk for our ultras as well. Because I want to do it for me, and I would love to be able to share it with people who are supporting Morning Kickaround.
Yeah, definitely echo that sentiment, and yeah, doing as much as we can to serve this soccer community and provide more for the value, add more value to the memberships as well as part of what we're working on as well. I saw somebody earlier on mention APSL, which is a new league that's trying to go about expansion in a different way, and that's part of what we're going to be doing in the coming weeks, is kind of bring in some of those leagues and different associations that maybe could use a little bit of clarity and explain what the little niches are moving forward. So I think that's going to be part of what we do for the membership as well.
Yeah, we've got some things. Again, we've got a lot of things in the works. I'm a person with a billion ideas. It's about follow through for us. So we want to make sure that we're focused on some things that we know will deliver good stuff for American soccer fans. I mean, we're going to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think Rob and I have talked about building out some bonus things. If you're in the Discord and you have an idea for a bonus or something that's maybe a little bit more either in depth on a topic that we've kind of broached on the main show, but you would like to see more coverage of, or, you know, some fun things. Again, like maybe we'll go back and review some of those soccer clubs that used to exist and pick out our favorite badges and that kind of stuff.
And speaking of follow through, be on the lookout later in the week. We're going to get that pre-sale started for the MK Ultra kit, which I'm very excited for as well. But we will be back Wednesday. I think we'll probably talk about that Cleveland brand launch. Pro soccer coming to Cleveland, or at least the branding is going to be launched at the very least. Cleveland been waiting quite some time for some pro soccer, and I'm sure hopefully we'll see some progress in the USL labor negotiations. There's supposed to be a call this afternoon, so we will see what happens there, and we'll be back on Wednesday. So until then, be safe, continue being brave, and enjoy your soccer.